Books are meant to be read, but strangely enough, not all books can be read. The book in question today puzzles scientists, puzzles ordinary people, and is a great mystery because it cannot be read. Why is that? Why is it so mysterious, and why is it interesting? Let's find out. This is Infinity, and in this episode, I'll tell you about the book that no one in the world can read. In 1912, the Polish bibliophile Wilfrid Voynich discovered and purchased in Italy a very unusual antique book. Its cover had neither the title nor the name of the author. The book itself contained many enigmatic, detailed pictures and was accompanied by strange text in an unknown language. Voynich became obsessed with the book. Until his death in 1930, he tried desperately to understand what it was about. He tried to read it, but he could never identify and decipher the language in which it was written. Voynich died without being able to find out what book he had bought in Italy. After the bibliophile died, the book was called the Voynich Manuscript. It's been almost 100 years since the bibliophile died and more than a century since he found the book, and it's never been read or deciphered. This makes the Voynich Manuscript one of the most mysterious books in history. Let's dig into this manuscript. The exact time of the book's creation is unknown, but according to the results of radiocarbon analysis, scientists found that the parchment for the manuscript was made between 1404 and 1438 AD. That is, the book was most likely written in the first half of the 15th century. Although some scholars believe that the book was written later, in the 16th century, when its history began to be documented. The book itself is an illustrated codex written by an unknown author in an unknown language, using an unknown alphabet. An incredible combination, right? Given that no one has been able to read and decipher the book for a long time, the language in which the manuscript is written is recognized as one of the most mysterious codes in the history of cryptography. Nevertheless, the contents of the manuscript can still be studied. In addition to the text, the manuscript contains numerous pictures, which are illustrations of unusual herbal plants, naked women, astrological symbols, and visual metaphors. Some of the illustrations depicted in the manuscript bear resemblances to various objects of the natural world and space, and another picture is supposed to be an image of a plant cell. All of this hardly fits into one's mind. How could the author, who lived in the 15th and 16th centuries, draw these objects in such detail when there were no microscopes or telescopes in the world yet? After Voynich's death, scholars from various countries took up the manuscript. Linguists have found out that the Voynich manuscript was written either in an ancient and long-forgotten language or in an unknown language altogether. There's one more option. The manuscript is written in a known language, but it's completely encrypted with a very complex code. According to researchers, the reason could be that the author wrote about mysterious and very important things, and therefore they had to encrypt every word so that no one could unravel the intent of the work. That makes sense, but it's not clear how a man who lived in the 15th century could have come up with such a cipher. After all, scientists believed that cryptography was at a primitive level at that time. Modern scientists would solve a that-time cipher in no time, but the cipher for the Voynich manuscript cannot be solved even with the most modern technologies. But what's also suspicious and interesting is the fact that many of the illustrations in the manuscript do not correspond to the 15th or 16th century. It feels as if the book doesn't correspond to its time. By the way, the author has never been identified. Gist and theories. All that's clear about the author is that it's not clear who he was. Obviously, he was very advanced, intelligent, and brilliant, as indicated by the fact that there's not a single blot or correction in the entire manuscript. But what about the manuscript itself? What's it really about? Unfortunately, because it couldn't be deciphered, it is 100% impossible to understand. And although in the media now and then appear statements of various scientists claiming that they did manage to crack the code and understand what the manuscript narrates about, this isn't entirely true. Some scientists have understood only a small part of the manuscript, which, by the way, consists of 240 pages. Some have been able to understand the general gist without going into detail. In general, at this point, there are only theories about the manuscript. According to one of them, the author encrypted the secret of eternal youth. According to another, the Voynich manuscript contains alchemical recipes that provide the path to immortality and enlightenment. According to a third one, the manuscript tells of diseases and their cure options. In fact, there are many versions, and it's not clear which of them will turn out to be true. It's possible that the manuscript will never be read at all, and its mystery will never be solved. Or maybe we don't need to read the book and try to solve the mystery at all. Maybe it's cursed, and reading it won't lead to anything good. Sounds strange, but there are books in the world that are not recommended to read because they're considered cursed. Let's find out what those books are. Codex Gigas. Let's start with this book, which is called the Giant Book. It's a good name because the codex is really gigantic. The sheets are 89 centimeters high and 49 centimeters wide, and the book itself weighs as much as 75 kilograms. It's definitely not something you can read lying on the couch. But it's better not to read this book at all because it's known by another name. The Codex was written in the 12th century. Its authorship is attributed to a Benedictine monk. According to legend, he once broke a sacred vow for which he was imprisoned in a separate room in the monastery and starved to death. In the difficult and final days of his life, he decided to write a book in which he told everything he knew about humanity. According to legend, the monk finished the Codex in just one night, and in doing so, he was helped by the devil, to whom he had sold his soul. Although it's just a legend, one of the pages does indeed bear a portrait of the devil. It's believed that the devil left the portrait in the book as a reminder of himself. Many centuries ago, it was believed that this book was more than just a text with pictures. It was believed that the Devil's Codex had a secret meaning and could adversely affect anyone who read it. It's still believed so to this day. The Grand Grimoire. The Grand Grimoire, also known by another title which refers us to the devil, the Gospel of Satan. It's an ancient and ominous book that describes the price to be paid for mighty power. It's believed to have been written by a man who was possessed by the devil himself. The original Grand Grimoire is considered one of the most dangerous and darkest books in all of human history. The manuscript is so dangerous that a copy of it is kept in the secret vault of the Vatican Library. It's unknown where the original book is. Not much is known about the book itself. Scholars believe it was written in 1512, after which different variations and reprints of the work were published. The Grand Grimoire described the methods and techniques by which the most powerful and terrible demons can be summoned to Earth. It's believed that anyone who reads the Grand Grimoire will sell his soul to the devil, which is why this book is strictly not recommended for reading. The Book of Abramelin. This book is a grimoire manuscript written in the 15th century. For many centuries, nothing was known about the book until it was translated into English in 1900. The Book of Abramelin has been considered cursed ever since. The manuscript was written by Abraham after he went to Egypt. There he met the magician Abramelin, and his dialogue with him provided the basis of the work. Abramelin told the traveler about such things as raising the dead, obtaining wealth, becoming invisible, summoning the storm, summoning demons, etc. After his return, Abraham began to believe that there was a demon inside every person. In the manuscript, he describes the methods of how to control and summon this demon when necessary. What's wrong with the book itself? It's believed that anyone who reads it, or even just possesses it, will be haunted and die at a young age. The Book of Soyga was published in Latin in the 16th century. It gained its popularity back then because the book describes magical rituals and spells. For a long time, the book was considered lost until two manuscripts were found in the British Library last century. The last person to possess the book was the scholar named John Dee. He devoted many years to deciphering it, but he was unsuccessful. The book was never deciphered, but maybe it wasn't worth it. After all, it's rumored that the person who manages to decipher the code and understand exactly what's written in the book will pay dearly for it and will die within 2 to 2.5 years. For me, the Book of Soyga is a case when a secret is better to remain a secret. That's all, guys. What's the creepiest book you've ever read? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.